we're getting a little interference. Hope it won't interfere too much. I'm gonna mix up all of the cards. I promise you, I'm not targeting the feminists going on up there. So, but of course, I listened to the recording from feminists dropped out. I'll keep it and we'll put it in the stack. So I did listen yesterday from last night. That's what I'm getting to this earlier this evening. So. But I did want to, there were some things that I wanted to go over and actually expand upon. But first, when I was thinking, because I know like bees and honey, I got these tags, I guess, these computer tags in my brain. But I said the fable of bees when I was thinking of Thomas Wilcox, which is a choice drop of honey from the rock of Christ. And two different things, however, not so different. And you know, one is economic domain and the other is a religious domain, but the message is basically the same. So the fable of bees is Bernard Mandeville. And this is one of the things that I get into, how should we say, the square root with The Economist. And where's the problem? Is I'm like, you guys are all Mandevillian. I'm the only one here who adheres to Adam Smith. Because the invisible hand, of course, is Adam Smith. And I'm like, yes, there is the invisible hand. We can call it deep state. We can give it all sorts of different names, you know, and it is given other names, but it's basically, you know, the same thing. And that's the moral authority in the society, which of course comes from the women. I mean, men think they rule, but as the Spaniards always say, and I was always like, come on, you guys, because it was, ¿Quién manda? ¿Quién manda en la casa? Who rules in the house? I mean, everybody would ask you that, young and old. And I would always be like, why should anybody rule? Isn't it a partnership? But this is something foreign. I'll get into that a little later. The Spaniards. And it is very prevalent in, well, see, it's prevalent everywhere. It's just more open in Spain. They say it to your face. And it has different nuances and different styles, if you will, depending on the society. And it doesn't matter if it's Asiatic, Middle Eastern, Northern European, Southern European, American, up and down. I you know, I confused when I was thinking, it came up fable of bees. So, you know, that's what the fable of bees is, and the choice drop of honey is the one from Thomas Wilcox, which is in the 1600s. I forget, I don't have the dates here of when he was alive, but it was the 1600s. Now the other in my family tree is another Thomas Wilcox, which is the Puritan movement. I talked about that. I mentioned it at least the Puritan Manifesto, 1571. So that's the 1500s. Now, one of the things that my father always said was, our family has been fighting the British crown since Elizabeth I, which goes to Thomas Wilcox and the Puritan Manifesto under Elizabeth I. And Elizabeth I was I mean, it sort of started under her father, but really the British Empire and that whole global expansion in a predatory mode started under Elizabeth I. Wasn't it Sir Drake Scott? There's actually a very, very good movie. I think it's Kate Blanchett with Elizabeth I. But so just to clarify that. And then when I got into the story about Ann Patterson, former ambassador to Bogota, I talked about her husband, but I didn't mention her sons. Now, her sons I met in Washington. I really forget which year, probably I think around 2011, 2012, but because I relate to also where I was living, but so I don't remember exactly which year. It might have been later. But anyway, my brother came to town, and he was like, okay, we're going to meet up with for dinner with some friend, a friend of his girlfriend, who and her husband and his brother. So we go, it's in Cleveland Park, in Ardeo Bardeo, where I later worked, which was actually, that's Bindas, Cleveland Park, Bindas, and that's Ashok Bajaj, but it's also Ardeo Bardeo. Long story, but it's a kind of conjunto. It's changed now, but still they changed the restaurants, but Bindas is still there. So anyway, we're supposed to meet at Ardeo Bardeo. So we go, we're having dinner, and we're talking, and Colombia, Bogota comes up, and then they're saying, oh yeah, our mother was there. And I forget the trajectory exactly of the conversation. And I said, what's your last name? And I said, Patterson. I'm like, oh, okay, because I'm kind of going on Colombia. And I said, your mother, Ann Patterson? Father David Patterson? Yes. I said, okay. And then it kind of came up because Plan Colombia. And because we had friends in the French embassy. And in fact, one of our good friends he was the one who would go into guerrilla territory and negotiate and talk to them. And his wife was always like, so, hysterical. And I said, wait a second. Like, you and I have more chance, because if he goes into guerrilla territory, he's going as an embassy emissary. They're not going to kidnap him. That's going to start a war with France and the guerrilla. I mean, they wouldn't be that stupid. I mean, he's probably one of the safest people going out there. I mean, okay, I can understand why you would be nervous, but we live in Bogota. Like, this is a daily concern. And I mean, I had, with my husband within the banking system, I had a lot more if they're going to go after you, they go after you for money. So petroleum and bankers, first in line. The embassy people, you know, particularly you're going on a mission for the government, they think twice. I mean, that doesn't mean you know, the petty crime stuff, but guerrilla kidnapping. So anyway, then he said, because the younger son was in the military, and the older son, I find out, is a white collar lawyer. And so I think it was the younger son who said, well, isn't the American, you know, politics on Plan Colombia and the solution in Colombia the same thing? And I was like, not exactly, because one of our best friends, you know, I know, I mean, they're not telling me everything, the details and stuff, but basically my point being is, well, the French government is not really into let's dope up and let's make all of our citizens drug addicts. So then we can send forces and make lots of money off of our military and weapons builder to deal with the issues. So that's kind of where the divide with the French and the Americans come in. But of course, I didn't want to get into that discussion with Ann Patterson. So I kind of like, I was like, well, yeah, we kind of don't, so I changed the subject. But then it came up that her elder son was a white collar criminal. And I was like, Ivy, as my Jewish friends used to say, what their mothers would say, Ivy, do I have a case for you? And he said, oh, I hope it's not your ex-husband. And I said, it is. And I actually sent him a letter because Ann Patterson is State Department, and I'm going after the State Department. So that's through the Pattersons. And but son got a letter. Oh, and then the colmo of this is that a few years later, my brother says that no, they've separated, because his wife, she's Philippine, or you know who his wife was, caught him cheating. See how the world is really, really, really small when you get into upper echelons, and really, I promise you, when you get into the international ones, it's just as small. And see, this is the problem. It's like, you guys hang me out to dry. You want to get me living on a tent in the streets. I know where all your skeletons are. Ask any mafia boss. You know, you take care of your own, or you take them out, because they can talk. I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas, because that's what they did to JFK and Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King, for the same things that I'm trying to push. Noting that Governor Cuomo's ex-wife, Carrie Kennedy, who's at the JFK human rights org. You got so many names out there and so many organizations, but human rights, you know, institute or whatever it's called, the head of that. I'm sorry. Carrie Kennedy is cashing in on her uncle as much as Caroline Kennedy. And I mean, I have one book back here is from Caroline Kennedy on human rights. And, you know, so all of this human rights, Carrie and Caroline, you want to sit down and have a little conversation and discuss where you are and where I am? And you can tell me where I'm wrong. I got no problem. Because Caroline Kennedy was the ambassador to Japan and got a letter from me in the James Ryan case. Now, where is your position, Caroline Kennedy, on my position, whether it is the obligation of the consulates, American consulates? I mean, I don't care, every consulate, but America, in this case, it's the American consulates. Why isn't it the obligation of the American consulates abroad to ensure that the rights, property, liberties, etc., of their citizens are upheld? Yes, they're in foreign jurisdiction, but with the International Convention, Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, the embassies, the consulates, they have the tools. With international law, you have the laws. I mean, the tools are there. The legal structure is there. It's just all the lawyers who are dropping the ball. Well, this, I'll actually do a thing because I know you can't see and I don't want to start. Well, I guess I can move this thing a little bit. Yeah, but you're still not going to be able to see. Okay. So this is, I constantly, UN report, in-depth study on all forms of violence against women. And the other one, good practices in eliminating discrimination against women, which goes into, since violence against women is occurring on cross-border situations, countries, governments have the opportunity to address that situation in cross-border disputes, altercations. There's a whole myriad of situations that could come under. So explain to me where I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. No problem. We can sit down, go through, every issue that anybody wants to go over and discuss my position. But this, no, you're stupid, you opted out. I mean, one of my favorite is, no, you missed the boat. When you opted out of the workplace when you were young, fresh meat, and still, having a functioning womb and of interest, you opted out. And I'm like, guess what, you guys? Yeah, but the little boat that you got on is a Titanic, and you left me on the docks holding the booty. So, play that game with me, go ahead. I got no problem. As I say, even if they get me living on a tent on the streets, as I keep on saying, you know where you'll find me? At the corner of 19th and Penn, starting Occupy Penn Avenue. Believe me, I promise you, I will be safer there than in the neighborhood. Even this house, as bad as it is, it's still Northwest. I mean, this is Latino neighborhood, so it would be pretty safe compared to Cleveland Park. Yeah. So I've forgotten. All right, I forgot to mention Ann Patterson's sons. Then, oh Lord, I was looking at the NFL one, and I had gone on to, gone into the pedophile sect, because this whole thing, it's all the way everyone in the NFL. Of course not, but there are whatever you want to call them, cells, groups, sects, whatever, in everywhere. organizations across the board. You know, rich and poor, it's everywhere. This is one of the things, since there's a division between the mothers' rights groups that just want favoritism for the mothers in courts, the fathers' rights groups that just want favoritism for the fathers in courts. You have the pedophile group, but the pedophile rights groups who want rights for the pedophiles and to shut the kids up. And since there's so much squabbling going on, the pedophiles are winning. I mean, my sister even told me, she's like, oh, you wouldn't believe in Colombia that they're actually like saying that pedophilia is just another form of sexuality, like homosexuality. I said, yeah, I know, I've been telling you that for years. It's starting here. I mean, the motor, because all of the, you know, everybody for the moment is still following the Americans. So any of these trends, ground zero is here. And because there's groups with, you know, on Facebook, and I'm fathers' rights groups that I've joined, but I have no idea which ones are pedophile rights groups or fathers' rights groups, because there's a whole, you know, squabbling. I just have them because I look at things that they're posting, and that way I get the feed. But the only like research or documents or any expert, it was this guy, Baskerville was his last name. He's from Howard University. And I think there were supposedly like 2 reports that he had. I clicked in, you know, clicked on the link, which sent me to another place. It sent me to another place, which one guy, Howard University, but there's, as I say, and I do investigate, I'm like, okay, well, show me the evidence. What are you talking about? And let's see what exactly it is that you're talking about. But of course, it was nothing. But that's going on all the time in the academic community. All the time. It is a cesspool. And intellectual property rights, that's like, everybody does it. Who cares? Well, that gets in, well, that'll come up in the card, so I won't mention that one right now. So with the NFL, then I was thinking, I was like, okay, see, this gets into networking, social networking. And in fact, at Foxcroft, they had this saying, and this came from Miss Charlotte. I told 2 friends, they told 2 friends, who told 2 friends, who told 2 friends, so on and so on and so on. And that's one of the things that also kind of gave me the idea for the web networking website when I was in Madrid, which it actually started because I wanted to do an international marketing company with artisan products. And then it's a long story, but it developed into the idea for the platform, and then a new expat wives club for global expats. So, you know, this is how the networking between socialites work, and this is their job. It's not to hang out in country clubs and go shopping and lunch with the girls and look for your next affair. I mean, where is the difference between these little bimbos who are grappling up the ladder of success by marrying it, or in the corporate world and international development community or diplomatic corps, or wherever, who are looking for their next affair at a conference or at the country club. I don't see any difference. So the two people that I know, it's actually their parents who were owners of football teams, or part owner at least. So one, I'll do this one first. One who is actually the owner is actually the stepfather of the Atlantic Falcons. Now his name was Rankin Smith. Now his stepdaughter, Lee Topping, which is now Lee Topping Brady. Lee was my roommate at Foxcroft my first semester. But I mean, Lee and I were never friends. I mean, let's just say she's with the Cornelia group and all that, you know, the Martha's Vineyard and Palm Beach, and I wasn't born into that, but I really didn't miss that whole scene. So okay, let's go first. Her stepfather. So he's Rankin Smith. He was the founder of the Atlantic Falcons. Now, I remember because Lee Majors was a part owner or something, or maybe he was looking to you know, become a part owner, I forget. But at Foxcroft, Lee had gone home, and Lee Majors had been, you know, at football games and you know, had met Lee and talked to Lee or whatever, and he was calling her at the dorm. And you know, because I'd be in the TV room and I'd hear Lee Majors is on the phone, Lee Majors, and everybody's like, Lee Majors, this $6 million man is calling Lee. So I mean, of course, I never met him, or you know, and who knows what that was all about. But I mean, well, this is actually, I guess, when his marriage is ending with Farrah Fawcett. And I think Farrah Fawcett was probably already starting up with Ryan O'Neal. So that brings us into Farrah Fawcett and then Ryan O'Neal. So, you know, Farrah Fawcett, it's gorgeous woman. And, you know, I think it's another Marilyn Monroe type story. And I don't think she was a bimbo by any means, but what was it? Who was it? Yeah, Tatum O'Neal. Well, then she goes with Ryan O'Neal. That was so she's with Lee Majors from 73. They separated in 79, divorced in 82 when she takes up with Ryan O'Neal. And that's from 79 to 97. Now, they did have a son, Raymond Jonas, I think, Fawcett O'Neal. But Tatum O'Neal did say, I mean, this is on Wikipedia, say that her dad, you know, was hitting the Farrah after the relationship ended. Now the relationship, I forget the one after that, but also Farrah Fawcett was beaten by, I think it was a husband, or maybe that was Lee Majors. I'm sorry, but I forget, because I think the end relationship was a pretty good one. Sorry, it might have been Lee Majors. Okay, but I do have in the notes at least that was Ryan O'Neal, which doesn't surprise me and fits with Ryan O'Neal. I mean, look at it. Really, quite frankly, my heart goes out to Tatum O'Neal. And this is where it gets into me knowing somebody else in that whole line of connections. I mean, okay, these are loose connections. Yeah, if you look, I love LinkedIn because it's kind of put that, you got your first level, you got your second level, you got your third level, and I got, fourth level or whatever. But you can also ask your fourth or fifth level to present you to their first level if you want an introduction. So see, that's how the social networking and relations go. That's where I come into a mission of action of everybody. Now, so I've explained ad nauseum, particularly my sister, is yes, private citizens, you don't have an obligation to act. However, civil servants, public, anybody who works for any government agency, it's a whole other ballgame. So, and also you have an obligation to your society and your community. And just under basic fundamentals of what all of our moral codes and legal codes are based upon. In our governments and in our societies. I mean, are we animals just here to consume? Because we're the only ones who trash the planet. All of the other ones eat what they need, consume what they need. I mean, none of them others are creating the pollution. It's us truly. So then that gets into Tatum O'Neal, and Tatum O'Neal, she's had some drug problems and lost custody, but oh my Lord, again, her husband, what's his name, the tennis player. Poor girl. I mean, yeah, you talk about a temper, and anger management issues, and she, lost custody of her children because of her drug problems. And so Tatum O'Neal was a student at Tree Haven in Tucson, Arizona. Her that would have been fourth grade for her. Most of these kids would only go, even we only went for 1 year and left. But she had gone there the year before I went there. And a friend of mine, Leanne, it was like, oh, Tatum and I were the best friends. And this Leanne was I'm pretty sure her name was Leanne. It was a boarder. So anyway, she told me about Tatum O'Neal, and because Boris Paper Moon had already come out by that time. And I was like, oh gosh, how cool. However, at Tree Haven this was my first crush. It was, I forget I'm not sure his last name. I don't know if I put this. Oh no, I didn't put the father. So this was Anne Margaret's stepson, Dallas. So I was in 5th grade and he was in 8th grade. I mean, I thought he was just like the tops. Now I bring this up because this whole thing about, 15, 16, 17-year-old girls being pedophile with the older men going with them. I'm like, no, already in 5th grade, the little girls, I mean, of course, the older man, he's not even gonna, know who I am. And this is all puppy love and it's all totally innocent, but it's still that this starts, like junior high, high school. You gotta deal with it. as it comes along. My favorite was my youngest son. Yeah, I'm trying to explain the birds and the bees and babies and I mean, okay, not the birds and the bees when he's a toddler, but I was explaining to him. I said, "See that lady over there with the big stomach? She has a baby in her stomach, and the baby's going to be born, and that's why her stomach is so big." And anything. And then I forget, I'm explaining, but he thinks about it for a while, for several days, I think. And he's like, because I might have explained, and here's where the baby comes out. And he's like, okay, but how did the baby get in? Of course, at that age, you do not get into the technical logistics of the situation. You just say, oh, the mommy and daddy get together and then produce the baby. But that was my favorite story, one of my favorite stories, because he really had thought about that. Okay. That's where it comes out. How does it get in? And he's a little, he's still, this was in Paris. So, oh gosh. See, this quality time, these are the moments that you just have over the entire day. Yes, there's lots of cleaning and all of that, and diaper changing and everything that goes with it. But those are the kind of moments that's like, you can't give me all the money in the world to want me to give this up. So anyway, that's why I bring it up. I mean, I'm like, come on. Already in, it usually starts 5th, 6th, 7th grade, that boys and girls are much more precocious than boys, become interested in each other. Of course, at that age, you're not too worried about anything going on. I mean, they might get a kiss behind the fence or something like that, but if it's going on, it's usually with an older guy, and it shouldn't be going on. But this is another thing: live and let your children grow up, at the stages that they should be going through and progressing, and not try and control them all the time. I mean, each age, you have to give them a little bit more independence and decision-making responsibilities. And of course, a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, it's not the same. So that goes to Tree Haven in Tucson. And in fact, Tree Haven's very, very similar, the type of school that Patty Davis Reagan went to. It wasn't don't think it was in Arizona, I think it was Utah. But it's that same region and those same type of schools. Now, Paris Hilton went to a school out there as well, but it's a different class of school. It's really, I mean, thank you, Paris Hilton, because I saw several years ago she was demonstrating, because that school needs to be investigated for abuse, serious abuse. I forget the name of the school, I forget, but chapeau for you, Paris Hilton, because that place needs to be investigated up the wazoozy. So now, Lee Topping. So let's go back to Lee Topping. So Lee Topping, her married name is Brady. Now, her father-in-law was Secretary Brady under the Bush administration. He was the architect of the Brady bonds. And the Brady bonds are basically, that was in the 1980s, and was a trajectory. When I saw the IMF with some anniversary of the Brady bonds, like celebrating it, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is one of the things that started the over indebtedness and, reliance, indebtedness to the United States by Latin America. And everybody celebrates it. Say the American Treasury Department since Reagan have been out of control. Still out of control. Oh, I believe it's Janet Yellen who's the head of Treasury right now. See, they just move the chairs on the Titanic around. That's all they're doing. So then, okay, so Lee Topping, as I said, her stepfather was Rankin Smith, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. But her father was Dan Topping. Now he's New York, Connecticut, wealthy industrialist family. I forget if it's steel or something. Now her mother, he was married 6 times, and her mother was the last of Dan Topping's wives. Her name's Charlotte Lillard Topping. Her married name was Topping. Now, she was a nurse from St. Louis. She was born in 1931. He was 1912. So, 20 years his junior. We see this all the time, of course, which doesn't surprise me because Lee, I think, from what I never met her mother, but I think it's the same mold. And this was one of the things that just pissed me off in the Foxcroft reunion. It was a Zoom online reunion in 2020 for our class, 81. And Lee Topping was there. And I'm trying to talk to these women about how Rome is burning and a lot of these issues. And they just changed the subject. Oh, how are you? I'm like, well, you don't want to hear about my personal life because it's a shit show. But it wouldn't be if the government was doing its job and I could get some movement in this city. But see, Lee, when she said, when we're talking, because everybody's under lockdown, I'm good in her $1 million home. She only complained that she had her sons home and had to cook for them. I would give my right arm for the past 15 years to have my sons with me so I could cook for them like I used to do. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My eldest, the only time they had a baby jar of food was, we're on vacation in Spain, and lunch is at 3 o'clock. Well, try and tell a child, a baby, a toddler who's used to eating at noon, no, you're going to wait until 3. It's not going to work. So, I bring food and give them, but of course they're still babies. so I can't make a sandwich. So I'm like, okay, well, for once, a baby jar, you know, the baby jars of food, I had to kill him and start giving it to him, and he spits it out. He won't, and I'm like, well, it can't be that bad. And I taste it, and I was like, oh my God, it is that bad. Ugh, how can these children like eat this stuff? It has no taste. They don't develop their palate. And I used to make, you know, I would make their soup for lunch every day, throw in a potato, throw in some vegetables, sometimes broccoli, green beans, whatever. Just throw it into a little pot with either fish or chicken. You know, you got to make the variety, and boil it up and put it in a mixer. You know, while I'm cleaning the kitchen or whatever, the lunch is made. And actually, I was eating that as my lunch because it was really good. I mean, I was alone, so I'm not gonna be cooking. But I was like, this is horrible. And then when we did the kitchen reforms in Madrid, nightmare kitchen reforms that were supposed to take, what was it, like a month, 2 months? Ended up 6. Okay, long story, I won't get in there. But so I don't have a kitchen. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll, you know, do TV dinners and I'll just zap this in the microwave. First night I pull out one and I zap it and I serve it, and they go, Mom, this is disgusting. I taste it. I'm like, okay, well, let's try another one. I'll try the other one. Same results. This is disgusting as the taste. And I'm like, okay, well, so we ate basically salads for the entire time. I did try scrambled eggs in the microwave. Doesn't work. So those are the only times that my children ever ate, like, I mean, you know, McDonald's but in my home, was the only time my children ever ate industrial prepared food, which, quite frankly, it lacks vitamins. You know, you go to the market and you don't have to be a great chef to make well-balanced, nutritious meals in your home, and you can make them. I mean, sometimes I'm running around and I don't have a lot of time to make dinner, and I you know, maybe an omelet or even huevos estrellados. It's eggs with potatoes. Of course, you're not going to serve that but believe me, huevos estrellados in Spain, and it really is very good. But you don't have to. I mean, I'll spend hours and hours and hours, but you don't have to. And you can make very, very, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. So I'm getting off track. So anyway, this whole, I'm good, and I'm sitting here in a shit show and trying to combat all of the damage that my former classmates of Foxcroft, and I mean, you can't put it all on them, but where are all of these ladies with, I told 2 friends who told 2 friends who told 2 friends who told 2 friends. No, they're all telling 2 friends at the country club and the shopping malls. Well, I mean, and this gets into lots of conversations, and with my family, my younger sister particularly. No, I was never popular at Foxcroft, never. But I didn't look to be Miss Popularity. And in fact, this is one of the things in the literature of expatriates. A lot of expatriates, you know, go abroad because they feel better, they feel more comfortable amongst those societies than their own. I turned off my air conditioning. That's what the sound was from the last video. Sorry about that. So that, but I wanted to go into this because it shows how, the networks are there. And I mean, of course, some of them irrelevant. I'll give you another example of one that's really irrelevant, but I love this one. But there are a lot of other ones that I have where the people are still alive, still around, and can do something, but they don't want to get involved. This made me think of the one that I have a second network, if you will, to Robert Redford. However, this link dates back to when I was a child and to when he was a child. So he probably won't even remember the person that I knew that he also knew. As I say, again, as a child, she was an adult at the time, because when I knew her, she was the age of my grandmother. But she was a very good friend of my mother, and it was Marion Music, and her husband was William Earl Music, and he was an artist. I think he had been at University of Chicago as an art teacher, and I'm sure it was the retirement, because I remember him. He had this, like type of Van Gogh, I forget the beard, white beard, but he died in 71. So, I don't remember. I remember him, but I don't remember much. I always remember her because we would always go over at Christmas time. Oh, Mrs. Music's Christmas cookies were one of my favorite. I still make those. It's a butter, you make the a butter cookie dough, and then a thin layer of dark chocolate, and then hazelnuts over it, and then you slice it up. So I've always made Mrs. Music's cookies. And that's another thing that really pissed me off with my divorce, because I had 3 or 4 of Mr. Music's paintings, and my palm trees. Always my palm trees were from Mr. Music. Lost. See, I mean, well, the Jews who had to abandon all of their family heirlooms and all of their things, I had to do the same thing. I lost everything, all of my art collection. I mean, it wasn't, huge. The videos of my children as babies and growing up, and the photos, everything. I moved them out of the house because I knew my ex-husband would throw them away if I left them. And I know, well, by this time, I know they've been thrown away, because I had a neighbor's house, and I know by this time they've been thrown away. But I also knew he would throw them away because I had read Ingrid Betancourt's book about, and in that was her first book, which she did in France, and then I can't think of the name right now, when she launched her presidential campaign, because she even said when her mom went away on vacation, well, she needed a break, I don't know, but her father flipped out, sold everything, sold the house, they moved out, he threw away everything. He made his wife's life so impossible in Bogota that she had to go to Paris. You'd think that Ingrid and Astrid would have a little compassion for me, but no, they're too busy cashing in. I mean, you should see I even did a comparison when I got back to Washington with what I was dealing with in Washington, what I had dealt with in Madrid, with the ordeal that Ingrid had had in the Amazon jungles of Colombia. It's all, I'll put the link in this video afterwards. Domestic violence breaks the bones and breaks more than the bones, the spirit as well, something to that effect, as it is intended. See, this narcissism epidemic is really creating a lot of problems for democracy, because all of these ladies and gentlemen are too busy cashing in and jet setting and, you know, grappling up the ladder of success and having it all. Well, you want to have it all, it's going to end up in a freaking bloodbath again, like it always does. So again, before I start, my Lord, I didn't even look at what time I started. I'm sure I'm already an hour. That this was, I hadn't mentioned, I had said that the Spanish ladies in Bogota hated me. I mean, despised me, and I could never understand why. I mean, not all, you know, that was the BBB wives, Spanish women, and not all the Spanish women hated me. Oh gosh, I'll get into a story that's really sad about the Spaniards there. And well, they hated me because I always had to be doing something. And I wasn't hanging out brown nosing them at the country club. I was like, if they would get a life, then they wouldn't spend so much time hating me. But also this gets into, I had to always be doing something. This gets into the Puritan worth ethic and one of the problems with Southern Europe, and why all of the money that was injected when, you know, it became the European Union was just money thrown away, and why everybody, it's all breaking apart. You know, this black market mentality that they have in Southern Europe is, you know, and this lack of worth ethic is a lot of what's the motor here. And that's for various reasons. I mean, some people want to work, and I mean, domestic abuse is rampant there, like everyone place else. So some of them are victims, but a lot of them want to sit back and cash in and con, you know, where's the next con job? Where's the next con job? And in fact, one time I was having a discussion with my ex-father-in-law, and I mentioned the Puritan worth ethic, and he said, what's that? And I said, well, it's the idea that one does work for its own intrinsic value, and what you gain from working, you know, the satisfaction. He said, what are you talking about? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That doesn't work, it doesn't exist. Only people only work for money. Okay, I wasn't going to get an argument with him, but that highlights the extent to which that's not just the Spaniards or the Southern Europeans, but it's more prevalent there. You know, the Germans, of course. I mean, Hitler, he got the trains running all the time. You know, it's all about balance. You know, just because you're a hard worker doesn't mean that you have to dress in gray and have no fun. But life is not just about having fun. It's about a balance. But this brought up, and this all get into the stuff about security, which I said I couldn't talk about in the last one, but I'll talk about. So when we were in Bogota, there was pretty sure Julio. He was the bodyguard for, or one of the bodyguards for the ambassador, the Spanish ambassador there. And he was in my jewelry school. Now, this was my first jewelry school that was up in the north. That's right after I got there and my kids were in school. I started there, but then I found a better one that was downtown, and I went there. But this was the first one. So, because also for him, he had to be close by. And I mean, he was doing it, you know, just as a hobby type thing. Everything that he did for his wife, all of the jewelry. The nicest guy in the world. I mean, one of those, you know, teddy bears. He was huge. And of course, us women, because you've got to pull the gold or the silver, and particularly the gold, is really hard when you're doing the hilos, like the threads of gold, because you got to pull it and pull it and pull it, and you got to heat it and pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it, and you need force. And so it's like, Julio, can you help me? And he'd always come and go whoosh. Just, you know, the nicest guy in the world. And in Spain they say más bueno del pan. Well, there was like a, you know, dinner party or something of the students, and I went to that. In fact, it was funny. It was at the military school on La Séptima, where they have the horses. I forget what it's called, but it's the military academy on the Séptima. And it was somebody whose husband, they you know, lived there. Her husband was an officer. So we're going in, and I don't have a bodyguard yet. I just have a driver. And oh God, that man would sell his grandmother up the river like that. Total night and day from what I ended up with. But so we're going through the check, the guard. The man was costeño, and usually my driver wouldn't help me with anything with the Spanish. But I kept on saying, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I mean, my Spanish wasn't as good as when I left. Finally, he was like, okay, we're going to be here all night. And so he told me, he translated. But believe me, un costeño does not speak like the medieval Bogota. So anyway, I go, of course, my husband wouldn't, these people are beneath him, so he's not going to go to the dinner with me. So I go there, and Julio wasn't there. He couldn't, he was working that night, but his wife was there. So we're talking. I mean, again, I don't really say, you know, who my husband is or who he works for or anything. So she's, I mean, I probably said my husband was Spanish, but so she's going on about how this is ridiculous, all of the security that all of these ladies have all over the place, and that it is just something, you know, a status symbol. And I'm like, well, no, not really, because at this time we had gotten there, we had been there a couple of months, and all of the other BBV expats, and there was 8 of them, had bulletproof cars. We were the only ones who didn't. Actually, it was like a temporary car. I don't know, that was trying to get our car. And we had this driver who, everybody in the bank, I think at the end, he stole, I forget, they had, you know, some game, it wasn't bowling, but it was something like that. And he stole all the money. He was the treasurer. I'm like, how could these people, everybody knows, everybody has told me, has warned me about this man. Never trust him, never leave your children, do not let your children go anywhere in the car alone with him. You know, so I know I want another one. But so I'm having this huge fight with my ex-husband about our security concerns, because I said, wait a second, if they go after somebody, this was for the bank, not us, they're going to go after the people who are the most vulnerable. We have no security. I'm a sitting duck out there with the kids. If we don't get, and I don't care if I have a driver, you give me, and if they don't want to buy us the bulletproof car, then we buy our own. And I want it twice as bulletproof as any of theirs. And I'll drive it. And I can promise you, if anybody gets in front of me and tries to stop me with a gun, and I got the kids in the car, that's the only time where I got no problem. I'll mow you over, and if I kill you, I kill you. You want to go after my kids? That's the only time that I would, be capable of really hurting somebody. So anyway, well, my elder son got, because I was going to take the kids and go to Miami until he got that problem regulated. Because I was like, security, this is not to be screwed around with. And we actually would, if we had gone with some, bankers, they were with Citibank, I think, but he was Colombian. If we had gone with them that weekend, they got stopped by the guerrilla coming back to Bogota. Now they got away because the man had balls. Thank God they got away. But before they found out that they were with Citibank, even though they were Colombian. But if we had been there, wouldn't have gotten out. So, and it was after that, I was like, no, we're not leaving Bogota. I mean, we went to Anapoima. Well, we also went to Lago de Prado. That was another one where we came back. I was like, don't even think about us going back down there. I loved it. It was beautiful. But guerrilla territory. A long story, but I won't go into that. But to highlight, the concerns that I'm living with, and this woman. But I have to say, I agreed with this woman that all of the other people, the Spanish women, I think, were the worst. But everybody who had, bodyguards or armed cars or security issues, a lot of them, particularly the expats, took it as a status symbol. And I was like, this is not a status symbol. This is an inconvenience. I think I'm the only one out there who says, are you kidding? My favorite was like Clinton when he said that what he, his biggest restraint when he was the president, he couldn't drive his own car or something. I was like, excuse me? Thank you. I will take a driver in any city of the world or any place in the world. I would love to have a driver. I hate driving. So if you give me a driver that I don't have to deal with that, I'm not going to complain. Not for 1 second. You don't have to look for parking. I mean, really, people, if this is your complaint in the world, you need to get a life. So, I didn't pursue the conversation with the woman because I didn't want to get into an argument. I think it's a month later, 2 months later, her husband was killed, was shot and killed. And I went to, and when I heard about it, I was just, I was like, why do you always have to take the good ones? And I went to the, a service for him. And I have to say, I was disgusted. I went with some people from BBV. She might have then realized, you know, who my husband was. But my Lord, when I went over and you know, my condolences. I mean, it was one of the most hardest moments of my life. But she looked, you know, the look that she gave me was kind of like, yeah, you were right. So you have to take the security seriously, but let's de-escalate the security that's necessary, because a lot of it's not necessary. Most of it's not necessary. And I have to agree with her. Most of the people that I have known, and this is Washington included, oh Lord, I'm so sick and tired of, you know, the limousines and these. Now it's not the limousines. Back in the 80s, it used to be the limousines. Now it's these big, huge SUVs, and the cops stop and you know, coming in. This is the land of the free and the brave, of democracy and equality for all. Oh, it just, the pomp and circumstance. And this is one of the it feeds their egos to have more and more and more security. Therefore, it's in their interest that there's a need for more and more security, because it's all about egos. Okay, so those are that's the things that I wanted to cover. Oh, Robert Redford. One of the things that I tell the young kids now, I'm like, oh, when we were growing up, and this gets into, again, the teenagers who have their idols. When we were growing up, we had Robert Redford and Paul Newman. That everybody, all the girls swooned over. In England, it was Prince Charles, Prince Andrew, Prince Edward, depending on your age. Young girls swoon. Now, big boys should understand that young girls swoon and you don't go there. Particularly if there's a little dowager in the background going, that's off limits. We got a whole slew of them over here that know the score. You can go after them. But these little girls are in training. Nobody touches them. See, that's why you had the Doña with the Spanish people, that you weren't allowed to be in a room or even touch, and you had the Doña making sure that no hanky-panky. But see, of course, that's going overboard to the other extreme. It's all about balance. So, okay, well, at least I'm starting earlier this evening. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Okay, so I did have a feminist card that dropped, so I'm gonna take it. Oh Lord. I was just talking about the Spanish royals. Okay, well, I'll put that in the pack. Let's just mix up these. I was like, my gosh, you guys, are you gonna give me all feminist? So, because see, the packs are too big. I've got it, and I do have to go through them. And pull out some stuff of issues that I've already covered. Oh, and I have a whole other pack that I've got ideas for, which covers places or dates or like social issues or things like that for another pack of cards. But okay, what I'm going to do here is randomly take this that I can get into my hands. And leave this. Oh, I should have grabbed those. They fall out. Come on, fall out again. Okay, close out. Okay, we're not getting all feminists tonight. Let's see if I can shuffle these. Someone fall out. Okay, let's. God, they're really coming out. Okay, I'm only gonna do 2. So I've got already 2, 4, and we'll do 2 more. As I say, I don't want to get too long. Okay. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Oh, this is going to be very interesting. Okay. The first is General and Mrs. Mark Milley. Okay. Paul Krugman. He's an economist. Well, a media personality as well. Then this is one that I'm not really. Victor Vekselberg, President, Renova Group, the oligarch. So he's a Russian oligarch. Then I have, this is a Spanish national in Baltimore from the Spanish family de Juan. They, if you have in time, like in French or in Spanish, if you have de Alcalá, de Caviedes, de Pozuelo, de Juan, those are names that'll come up. It's you know, like a noble family. The aristocracy. So that's a de Juan family. And then we've got Rush Limbaugh. Oh my goodness. I tell you, there's something to this stuff. Well, I guess all of them are relevant, so maybe that's. But it's coming out interesting. So, and this is the Spanish royal. Did I do anything about them? Can't remember I talked about them at all. Okay, so let's give everybody, well, I'm going to give some, well, I'll give the Millies only one because they are married. Maria Dolores gets one for Julie Sammy. Rush Limbaugh gets one, and the Spanish royals get one. The Pozuelo family there is the de Caviedes y de Alcalá y de Juan. Well, I don't know if I include de Juan twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my goodness. Sorry, the other times the air conditioning didn't interfere with the sound, but the last one it did. So let's start with the Millies. Hold on, I'm gonna turn. I hope this won't make too much noise. Get it as far away from. So I said I don't have a lot of room in this place. Oh gosh, it's so hot. Okay, so the Millies, General and Mrs. Mark Milley. Now, Mark Milley got a letter from me. It's on Taking Back America for the People website. Like the most recent, I think one of the most recent, because I'm like, excuse me, if I can't get any action from, that's after I had sent the letter to the FBI Director Wray and Attorney General Garland saying, we need an investigation into everybody in Washington who is a domestic violent extremist under the Biden report. And here's a list of the different groups of people and people who need to be investigated. I've got the evidence. Do something about it. I've spent the past 13 years since I've been here collecting evidence and evidence and evidence in sting operations that you all should be doing, but you're too busy partying and grappling up the ladder of success and cashing in to care. Because I'll go into the different categories. You have racially or ethnically motivated, which is, oh, this is really small, ideological agendas derived from bias, often related to race or ethnicity, held by the actors against others, including a given population group. I mean, excuse me, discrimination against whites is just as much discrimination against browns or blacks or yellows or greens or LGBT or anybody else. It's still discrimination. But no, it's okay because I'm from a privileged background. I had all the opportunities that nobody else had. I had the world given to me on a silver platter and I spit on it. Not the case. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Animal rights, environmental. DVEs DVEs is the domestic violence extremists, seeking to end or mitigate perceived cruelty, harm, or exploitation of animals or perceived, as I say, this is really too small. It was just a copy. I'll post it out there. But it's about animals and global warming. I mean, Cornelia has been the lead cheerleader on the whole vegan trajectory, which is related to the animal rights stuff. They're one and the same. Now, the vegan diet is extremely unhealthy. And Hitler, I don't know if he was vegan or vegetarian. He was also a dope addict. So, his doctor pharmaceuticals, but a dope addict, but he's vegan. So, he's healthy. So as long as you're vegan, you can do as many drugs as you want because your body is healthy. And it is not a healthy diet. Read Adele Davis. And I mean, I want to bring Adele Davis back and vindicate Adele Davis. I could go on for hours about Adele Davis and her books. Adele Davis was my Bible as a mother and homemaker and all the other words you want to use to denigrate me because you think it's an insult. And she was trashed because she goes back to the 1930s, I think is when she did her studies and really came out. But let's eat right, let's get healthy. People used to know those books, but you can find them all. They're still on Amazon. And I'd love to see people starting to buy them and reprint them because they should be a Bible for everybody. Adele Davis knew exactly what she was talking about. In fact, my eldest son, the reason that I didn't end up taking them and going to Miami was because my eldest got very ill and he had problems with his ears. Ear infection, but it was very, very, very serious. But I could never find, I'm like, okay, fine. Yes, I understand, how that's going on in the ear, the medical stuff, but why are some children so susceptible to these ear infections and others not? There's got to be a reason. And the only thing that I could find was Adele Davis that made any kind of sense was Adele Davis, was she said that it's a vitamin deficiency of A and E. And that's what produces the mucus stuff that not a doctor, so I don't know all of the technology. That is, because our ears and eyes and nose and mouth are all connected, with holes and stuff. But that that didn't, produce properly, and that was what protected the skin from the infection, and that's how the infection got in, and that's why there were certain children with more propensity than others. And I tried to explain this to the doctors, but of course, nobody wants to listen, vitamins and diet but the problem with A and E is it's an oil soluble. The water soluble ones like B, C, you can take it and it'll just eliminate. In fact, when you're going to get a cold, take high levels, massive dosage of C and B. Your urine will be a bright yellow. Part of it's the colorant, but no worries. But it helps bring your immune system, and you won't get the cold, or you'll get it less severely. So the water soluble vitamins, you can take pretty much as much as you want, and anything you're just pee out. But the oil soluble ones, you can't do that with, and they can be toxic. So that's why you can't screw around with that. But I still would love to find a reinterest in preventative medicine, vitamin therapy, herbs. I do not take medicine, ever, except vaccination, of course. I mean, anybody who's not, God, you people are crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yes, And I agreed with my father on this. You know, the facts, the pharmaceuticals, the vaccines, they are going overboard on that. But, you know, the ones that are required for school, for example, the polio, and there's, you know, my kids forget them, it's a long time ago, but you do have those required ones. This is now another that really is required for everybody. However, one of the reasons why there is this non-confidence in the vaccines is because the pharmaceutical companies have been taking everybody for a ride trying to produce any vaccine, and let's just vaccine. You don't want to over vaccinate your children. Same with antibiotics. Oh Lord, how did I fight on that one when my children were babies and young children? I mean, and my mother-in-law and my ex-husband's family, and I remember this quite a few with the French people. I was like, don't you realize if you take antibiotics, and quite frankly, you're taking antibiotics that is not doing you any good. You just need bed rest and water, chicken soup, you know, vitamin C, vitamin B, and let your body do it work. Because if you take too many antibiotics when you really need it, it won't work. That's why you only take all of this pharmaceutical. You don't want, you don't want to X out Western medicine. There's a lot of things that you know, in surgery and but it's too much. So sorry, I got off on, but that gets into healthy living, healthy lifestyle without extremism. All of these things are, right now, it's either extreme right or extreme left. So abortion related. My position with abortion is I am anti-abortion and pro-choice. I fortunately was never put in a position where I had to make that decision. I did have a miscarriage, so you know, but, and I was, you know, it was horrible. But you know, I just thank God I was never put in that position to be a young mother that couldn't provide for a child. Because you do not want to have young mothers out there and children being born that aren't cared for. My position is we want a society where we have responsible women, young and old. I mean, you get to a certain point where the woman, no more words. So, you know, when you're in your reproductive ages and sexually active ages, you need to be responsible for your bodies. Do not produce pregnancies that are unwanted. And then the abortion issue becomes mute. In fact, before the feminist movement, before the, you know, back in the 50s, even into the 60s, the right were not these, you know, anti-abortion extremists. They were on board with Planned Parenthood. It was relatively moderate because it was recognized that we're with a population explosion. So see how the left of the feminists on this everybody effing like rabbits. And if you don't want to be a whore or a pimp, something's wrong with you. So, you know, see how the feminists and the left brought extremism to that issue. And in my letters to Millie, well, it's directed then to FBI Director Wray and Attorney General Garland. Then the other letters, because they are the ones who should be doing the investigation. Then the other letters is please support me and getting them to do what they're supposed to do. Then we've got any government, any authority extremists. That comes under militia, violent extremists, anarchists, and the sovereign citizens. The diplomats and the IMF and the World Bank and the UN and all the international development community people here in Washington who know they are above the law. Because nobody will go after. So of course the militia, we see it, January 6th, how it's escalating. Then all other groups, which include, let's see if I can read this, including a combination of personal grievances and beliefs with potential bias related to religion, gender, or sexual orientation. This is what I love throughout this report. They keep on saying perceived. You know, what is it here? Where did it say that? Personally, oh, where did that say? Yes, or perceived. This is for the anti-government, including opposition to perceived economic, social, or racial hierarchy, or perceived government outreach, negligence, or illegitimacy. This I'll post this, but this is important about the anti-government one. See how they say it's perceived. No, none of these people would have any grounds for their grievances. It's just perceived. It's all in their heads. They're just imagining it. Now, of course, I'd love to know that this was my letter. This one went to Your Royal Highness. I guess this is this is Prince Charles, the one regarding Harry about these issues. Well, this is May 27th, 21. That's why I needed a break. I just churn them out. Each letter is individually written and directed at the person. I mean, I do a lot of, repeating of different issues, but every single one, these are not form letters that I'm writing. Every single one is written, and I mean, sometimes they're 15, 30 pages. God, Susan Feeney, I remember in Madrid in 2007, and I was trying to contact the corporations. Well, her name will come up. She was like, and you write an individual letter to every single person. I mean, they were form letters, but I would usually, include a first paragraph to the person of the profile, and then the rest with the form. And I was like, of course, you personalize these letters. You look into who you're writing to. You find out who they are, a little bit about them, and you try and personalize the letter to get them to, to get them to read the rest. I was astounded, but I found out that I'm the weird one. Nobody does that anymore. So anyway, that's General Milley, and that's basically what I'm asking. I'm going up now, you know, top, because he's top brass of the military. So you don't get any higher than this in the military. And his wife, it was written to his wife and him, addressed to both of them, and sent to their home address, of course. Otherwise, it always stuck in a. So his ex-wife is also honorary president of, I forget which, but it's the expat wives clubs, because they have, in fact, the military have a whole slew of them. So again, you know, that's why I'm focusing, you know, my organization is an expat wife club, and that's who I'm focusing on to, because I've always said, I said, you really want to get peace in this world, global peace, and I said, you know what, you get to the wives of the movers and shakers in the world, and you tell them to tell their husbands that unless they get their shit together, no dinner, and they're sleeping on the couch. They'll get their shit together pretty damn fast. Believe me. Okay, she's a career wife, having it all. Let's see, she's a nurse, a nurse, but she talks about how she was having problems maintaining her career, moving around, Well, yeah, we all have that problem. But when you get into the upper echelons, I mean, I know, both criticized across the board. Yes, if I had spent my time in DC brown nosing and hoveling, or using my skinny legs like Lady Catherine Meyer to snag me, you know, a prize, then I wouldn't be here. And I could have done that. I didn't come here for that. I mean, that was the thing. Lady Catherine Meyer. She'll come up. I won't deviate. She'll come up in this. So she moved 20 times with 14 different jobs, transferred her license 9 times. This is a big problem for what they call the trailing spouse. This is another reason why I was with global expats. We can help with licensings if that's what you know, the people want to do, but also open up other options that, you know, would allow you not to have to relicense yourself every single time. I mean, of course, not everybody needs a license, but, you know, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, there are certain professions where you do have to get a new license when you move to a new country. Yeah, problems with visa in the foreign countries. She's aware of that whole issue. That's something that, I mean, of course, I've gotten on 10 back burners with global expats in the past 15 years, because everybody wanted to, you know, destroy it. So, and then the Afghanistan withdrawal. I don't think there's anybody out there, except some crazy wackos, who wouldn't agree that we were supposed to withdraw from Afghanistan in a long time ago. I encourage everybody to watch Charlie Harper Wars. I'm pretty sure it's Charlie Harper. Charlie Harper Wars. It's with Tom Hanks. Great movie, just to watch the movie. My favorite with Tom Hanks is because he's playing the congressman, Charlie Harper. just openly, I mean, he says, get in here, jailbait. Get in here, jailbait. Because he got a bunch of young girls like Governor Cuomo. Why do they think they hire all of the young girls, the HR people, to have around you? Because then when they want to pull this crap, you're a sitting duck. But he would say, get in here, jailbait. How do you think all the spade is paid? And then he was being investigated for cocaine consumption. And when the results came back, I guess it was the FBI or something, his assistant is telling him, well, no, it's in the Virgin Islands. He's like, oh, well, that's okay. Then we're good to go because it's not an American jurisdiction. He didn't, it was like, didn't deny it. He just said, oh, it's outside of your American jurisdiction, so it doesn't count. Well, at least they can't come after me. But see, I appreciate people who are honest like that and call a spade and are honest to your face than these hypocrites just say no, like Nancy Reagan, when she's a freaking pill popping drug addict herself. And then this just say no to bullying. Michelle Obama. I mean, you talk about a bully. Wait. Barack Obama even talks about it on the internet in interviews, that there's the two groups, the two camps, Sasha and Michelle and Malia and him. Once again, quien manda? Why should somebody rule? Isn't it a partnership? Or am I just like, yeah, I'm crazy. Nobody lives like that. Yeah, well, maybe that's why we have so many divorces. I mean, I remember it, like at the end, even a good friend, I said, I am so sick and tired of him thinking that the world exists for him and I am there to serve it on him on a silver platter. Marriages like that always fall apart, always end poorly. One friend, he said, yeah, it's a give and take. And I just cut him off and I said, yeah, when one person's giving and the other is always taking, it doesn't work. And he just shut up because he knew everybody saw him. Oh my God. I ran a hotel and a restaurant and with no regrets. But then to say that I didn't do anything, my Lord. I'm the parasite on society. No, the parasite on society is not here. I'm gonna show you. So then we get to, let's see, with the Millies. I'm not really sure. Let's see, because I've got this Russian oligarch. Okay, I'm gonna do him. No, I'll do him because I'm looking at the other one. Okay, so, okay, General Milley. The Russians, I mean, I don't think I have to explain to it the military, connection and the importance of that. So this Victor, the oligarch, wealthiest person in Russia, worth 15 billion USD, communist country, sanctioned by US Treasury, who froze 2 billion of his company's assets, key ally of Vladimir Putin. Met with Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, at Trump Tower days before Trump inauguration. Weeks after Trump Tower meeting, Visselberg's I don't know how to pronounce it, Selberg's cousin, Andrew Entratere's firm, Columbus Nova, paid Michael Cohen $1 million to improve US-Russian relations. Trump, in a quid pro quo, refused to enforce sanctions against Russia. Okay, maybe I'll pick this. Yeah, okay, obviously, this is another thing that should be of concern, as much concern for the head of the military, the American military, as the State Department and a whole slew of other people. So, you know, I mean, these cases I'm not familiar with, but it just is a perfect example. I mean, Russia was a communist country. Now, this, I think it's on my second one, gets into managerialism, capitalism versus communism. Now, we do not, everybody, capitalism, oh, we're a capitalist society. The West is capitalist. We are the example of the success of capitalism. A capitalist society is, you know, the prices that the economy is, you know, functions by supply and demand, and free trade. Adam Smith. Now, look at Adam Smith. That's the core of what capitalism is about. This is where, if you look at Mandeville, because basically what Mandeville argues is basically, yeah, it's the same thing as Adam Smith. However, Mandeville, basically it's, well, prostitutes and drug lords and drug dealers and pimps, and they produce jobs. They produce an economy that keeps the society going. My thing is, yeah, but that's an unsustainable society. Yes, it will keep the money flow turning around for a certain amount of time, but at one point it's going to break down. However, under Adam Smith's model, if you have a responsible invisible hand that, you know, is injecting moral authority, this used to be done with the clergy in conjunction with the ruling elite women and men. You know, the women were always the social world, the private sphere, if you will, and the men were economic, well, the commerce, politics, and the public sphere. And that's, if we want equality for men and women, first, it's about respecting both of those spheres and the work that is being done in the home as much as the workplace, as the field, anywhere anybody works, that's respected as legitimate work. Unless you're sitting around doing nothing, and you know, like I got here. So, you know, communism, I mean, it's as much as a joke as capitalism. And look into Karl Marx. It's the same thing that I have with Machiavelli. Karl Marx was, and the Karl Marx of the theory and his principles is not the communism that you saw. In fact, that was a political system. This is another thing that I'm always with the people about communism. Like, okay, but first, can you define if you're talking about the economic system of communism or the political system of communism? because we in the West have the economic system of capitalism and the government system of democracy. I mean, at least that's the rhetoric. So if you define the rhetoric, then you can at least have a discussion. But I'm like, first, when you talk to me about communism, you have to specify, are you talking about the political system or the economic system? So let's just go on to the economic system without getting into the political system. Are you kidding me? So we went to Russia. This would have been probably 93. We had gone to Finland for a Forex conference. Oh, I had great fun. I don't think my husband had great fun. I would have been bored to death at the conferences and everything, but I went to wives and, you know, went to visit Helsinki. Then we went, there was a weekend trip. Of course, they organize different activities. But it was a lot of fun. We went up to the north of Finland and saw the lights. Went to where Santa Claus's reindeer is, and really a great tourist trip. They had a whole bunch of different activities set up. Then we went, but we were only there for like one night, I believe, in St. Petersburg. So it was really quick, you know, we get there, visit the first day, visit the second day. I really only think we were there for one night. And so we arrive at the hotel. It's the you know, new luxury hotel. The only luxury hotel in luxury thing, I think, in all of St. Petersburg. Or in a bus. So, when we got to the airport, arriving, time to collect the baggage. So the men went in, and it's this huge room. I mean, you talk about, you know, the belts going around. They were back there. I'm sorry. I didn't have to go and fight for our suitcase. But they were back there, and you know, from all of the flights coming in, just throwing the suitcases out onto the floor of the airport. So of course, everybody's scrambling around, pushing and shoving. I mean, you talk about chaos. I really have to sit there and go, oh my Lord. I've never seen an airport conveyor belt like this one. Sorry. Then we're getting to the hotel, and we're driving past this building where the roof is falling in. Huge. I mean, obviously it had been a gorgeous building when it had been built. Huge structure, but the roof is falling. And just at the moment when I'm looking at the roof, the guide at the front said, yes, and on the left we have our Herods of St. Petersburg as the one with the roof falling in. I'm like, oh Lord, these poor people. And that was where it was actually really a market. There were some people, because you know, it's just the skeleton of the building, and you have a bunch of people set up with tables, you know, flea market type thing, selling, you know, those, for example, the Russian dolls. One goes inside the other, wooden things like that. But also, this was where the Russians would go shopping, because we went there at the end, but I'll get to that. So we go to the hotel. I mean, gorgeous beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hotel, 5-star, beautiful. And we just, I mean, St. Petersburg was, I always say it was like Paris is small in compared to St. Petersburg, but the architecture, of course, at the time, everything was just in dire, all of the buildings. I mean, I was, because I love renovating, and it's just, you know, plus fort que moi. I would be like, oh God, that thing you could renovate. It would be gorgeous, gorgeous, renovated. And people are always looking at me and going, that thing's falling down. I'm like, no, but yeah. So the city had, it just broke my heart because it was just this absolutely gorgeous architecture. One of the reasons why the Russian Revolution came in eventually, I believe. But gorgeous, and it is patrimony, and now, you know, that's quite a few years ago, so things have improved. But I remember just the this is a sustainable economic system. Of course, the you know, communism eventually collapsed in Russia and elsewhere. I mean, the other trip that we did was in Cuba. Similar experience with Havana. I mean, everything was falling down, but just absolutely gorgeous architecture. The only difference with communism and capitalism as economic systems in how it has existed in the real world is that with capitalism, you got a bunch of corrupt schmuck idiots in the private sector who make the investment decisions. And in communism, it's a bunch of crooked, dumb, idiot, you know, assholes in the public sector who make all of the decisions. So neither one works. And you actually need a hybrid. You don't want everything in the private sector. You do want public-private partnerships, particularly in your infrastructure, but get rid of the schmucks. Get rid of the crooks, the con artists, because they're in control. I don't care if it's capitalism or communism. So let's do this goes with economy again. I'm not really sure. I'll save to take Rush Limbaugh. Okay, Rush Limbaugh. I guess this gets into propaganda. Maybe that's where the relation is with and then with the Americans, because the Americans, no different than the propaganda of the Russians or the Chinese or anybody else, which I think he's the originator, perhaps. When I got back to DC in 2009, this is when I was living up near the Armory. This was like the first month, because I only lived there for a month. God, what a house. Now they're looking at other problems. He was Pakistani, journalist from Pakistan. Oh Lord, you don't pull that shit with me. It may take time, but I'm coming after you, every single one of them. So I, you know, is a used bookstore, and I'm in there and I come across a book that's called The Way Things Ought to Be by this man, Rush Limbaugh, who I've never heard of. I started looking through it. I'm like, I don't want to buy this book. I still have it there. And I still would love to write a book in response to his book. And this, you know, brought me into this realization that, and I mean, this wasn't an epiphany, but I see it all over the time, all over the place. And this is exactly where your extremism is in the journalism, is that they take a truism. This is what I talked about with QAnon and the pedophiles and what's going on there. They take a truism and take it all the way up to La La Land, where only Alice in Wonderland can maybe figure out what's going on. So, you know, he's just, I would say, the grandfather maybe of the cacophony going on in the press and the amongst the journalists. Let's see what if I have anything else on him, but you know, that's, I don't really know much about him personally. I'm sure if you go in, he doesn't have a very functional personal life. I mean, look at his parents, look at his wife. I mean, I remember my mother, and we all remember this. Are they from a good family? Are they from a good family? But see, my mother and I's idea of what a good family is, or was, is not the same. Good family does not mean this. So let's, I got some that came out at the top. Let's do these things. Okay, so this one we've got, oh, we got some a founding father, John Hancock. John Hancock, a wealthy merchant and leading political figure from Massachusetts, served as president of the Second Continental Congress and governor of Massachusetts. He is remembered for his large and stylish signature on the United States Declaration of Independence, which he was the first to sign. Oh, this is the one that comes up, because the founding father who's not in the pack, and one of the most important, I would say, founding fathers, he was the penman of the Revolution, John Dickinson. Now, John Dickinson, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was her father was a Paul, which is from John Paul Jones, because Jones was added later. In fact, Rand Paul is from the Paul family as well. So that's the Paul family. Now, my relation definitely would go back. I mean, John Paul Jones never had any children, and his brothers, I mean, you know, any relation that would date back to Scotland, any kind of lineage. But so her father was a Paul and her mother was a Dickinson, which is from the John Dickinson family from Delaware. So John Dickinson, not only was he was, if you look into all of the profiles, I haven't looked into all of them, but a lot of them are kind of rags to riches stories. Thomas Paine, which I do a juxtapox of Thomas Paine's view of the monarch compared to John Dickinson. John Dickinson was educated in England as a barrister. He had some, I mean, he wasn't a very healthy physically person. But he was the penman of the Republic. And in fact, he was the most popular founding father before any, you know, before they really wanted there was a desire to separate from Britain, because for a long time, they just wanted their rights. There wasn't, let's separate, let's separate. That was after a long time. And, you know, the British Crown, yeah, screw you. It is what it is. So, in fact, Dickinson was the one who wrote the Olive Branch Petition, which was the last-ditched efforts of the colonies to arrive at a peaceful solution with the British Crown. That there was a, I forget what it, I think it was a British spy that intercepted a letter from John Adams that said, oh yeah, we're just appeasing Dickinson. This is we're going to war. And now whether that influenced King George, because that, you know, that's not King George, that's his the people around him. Just like Buckingham Palace with Prince Charles, that I sent him my Olive Branch petition in 2018 or 17. See, same thing. You don't have anybody who knows how to read. Hire some people who have a brain and know how to read. So that, of course, was ignored. And then, so the next document was the taking up of arms. I forget the entire name of it, taking up of arms. And most people believe, because there was two drafts or two versions. One was by Thomas Jefferson, the other by John Dickinson. And most people would believe that the really strong one, like we're going to war, was coming from Thomas Jefferson, but no, it was John Dickinson. And I'm pretty sure that's the one that was ultimately sent. But see, you know, and this was not a warmonger by any means. I mean, it was, you're a soldier. He really had some health problems for men. And then, so he didn't sign the Declaration of Independence. He was the only one who was there the whole time, and very important one, but he didn't sign it because he didn't think that we should go to war, and we didn't think we were prepared, and he didn't think that the separation was in the best interest. So he didn't sign it. But he I believe it was the only one who enlisted. He didn't get a commission as an officer, because I assume he hadn't signed the document, so he was a person non grata. But he enlisted as a soldier. It didn't agree, but he went to war, because, you know, that's what everybody else had decided. So this is one of the things that, you know, I keep on ad nauseum. Look to John Dickinson. Look to John Dickinson. He was right. He was right. If you won't look to the Puritan movement, look to John Dickinson. If you won't look there, look to my grandfather. I won't look there. Look at everything that I've written. I mean, I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. I know nobody's read anything. But, you know, I mean, I've put it out there. Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So I get 4. Oh, let's see, Rush Limbaugh 1. Yeah, they just, yeah. So we're just 1-on-1 for each. I gotta keep mine up there. Oops, put that at the bottom. Okay, second card. I can only go 2 hours. I'm sorry, you know, I try and keep this short, but one of my favorite stories was my English professor at Foxcroft, Biff Smith, and I can understand these professors. It's like, come on, you ladies. Yeah, anytime he would assign a writing assignment, how many words? How many words does that? Nobody was emphasizing. Just how many words do we have to produce? And he's, I loved this one. He said, ladies' skirts. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to be interesting. Now, if a male teacher at a girls' school, if I was wrong, said something like that today, you'd be fired under sexual harassment or some, sexist. I still think it's one of the funniest. I was like, yeah. We could use the same analogy, ladies, with the men. I mean, it's more their pecs that we're looking at than their asses. But I mean, come on. So, although some of them have some cute asses. This whole like we really need some serious discussions on sexual education. Paul Krugman, he's a Nobel Prize economist, London School of Economics. I'm sure that'll come up. Nimat Shafiq, director of London School of Economics. I'm gonna go well for. Okay, so from voodoo economics to evil eye economics. This is a quote. This is something that I wrote because this was done when I bought the cards. So this was back for the 2020. So I'd have to Google that for exactly what report that is, but from voodoo economics, the evil eye economics, the voodoo economics is the trickle down of stockmen. I've even sent Stockman has a contact. Of course, all of these guys, emails. I've sent a couple messages through his contact forms on his website. Stockman, the reason that trickle down's not working is because you got a bunch of narcissists who are following the path of Nancy Reagan. It's that simple. So yes, voodoo to evil eye. Well, I don't know, is the evil eye mine or is it somebody else's? Or maybe we got a couple of evil eyes from both sides of the spectrum. And then Trump will bring global recession. Yeah, I mean, it drove me crazy with Trump saying how great the economy was, and then everybody saying how bad the economy was because of Trump. I'm like, first, the economy was not great, Trump. That's all the money that you guys are injecting into the stock market to keep it up, flying, up and away. And that is not an indication of a healthy economy. You guys keep on getting on the stock market bandwagon, and that's bullshit. That's why you keep on injecting money into there, so it keeps up, flying up and away. And the idiot jackasses like Jim Reed here, the man. See, somebody like that shouldn't be allowed to invest. I mean, in my day, they had rules. No, now nobody's safe. Put your money in the stock market. We'll make you a packed all of money. And then when it collapses, guess who's left holding the bag? So, wasn't Trump's fault. No, well, the economy was not great and all of that was first bullshit. But then when, oh no, the economies, they're crashing. No, it was because of the COVID. I mean, put blame where blame belongs. That wasn't because of any decision making of Trump. And in fact, of 4 years of a presidency, you really, really want to see some, yeah, you can do, window dressing that will make it look like you're making a change, but it's not going to happen. You will not see the effects of that within a 4-year presidency, even probably within an 8-year presidency. You'd be lucky if you started at the beginning. I mean, in terms of economic indicators, for all of those things to progress and actually come up with some sort of statistical data, doesn't happen overnight with, like, month to month job. It boggles my mind, the idiot economists that are out there. They're all, it's all, they understand, they're technocrats and just manipulating the economy through the Fed, through different macroeconomic tools. I mean, this is what pisses me off with the IMF, Institute for Capacity Development. You are going to train everybody all around the world to manipulate capitalist systems like the Americans and the Europeans. And you're using taxpayers' money, $330 million a year to do that, and for your assholes to commit labor rights violations and all sorts of illegal activity. But they're untouchables because they have diplomatic immunity. Now, when they would pull that one out on me, I'm like, yeah, we got a problem in Denmark, you guys. If they, if you think that you can do that, and diplomatic immunity, how can a spouse, I mean, I'm sorry, who's here as a freaking parasite, and all she has to do is diplomatic immunity, I can get away with anything I want. So that's Krugman. I mean, he's a media personality. That's another thing. They got all, he's Yale, packed all here. Princeton, Yale, MIT, LSE, London School of Economics. Media personality. The media, they use experts all over the place. Whitney Murphy is one of those experts, legal expert for Fox News. A lot of these legal experts, give me the names one after another. Oh, the psychologists, when you're in that terrain. Yes, well, I hope everybody's keeping good track of who they've hired, because I'm going to be looking at all of those people, because a lot of it is wacko bullshit and just, giving an expert opinion, how shall I, legitimizing and normalizing all sorts of crap. All sorts of crap. So 2 strikes, buddy. In economics, and in media. Because Krugman, I think, well, he's Jewish. I mean, Krugman, I have to read more of his stuff, but most of the stuff that I've read from Krugman, I mean, yeah, I haven't really found, too many issues that I have with him. I mean, one, Joseph Stiglitz is, I would say, one that I still haven't read all of his books. I mean, I have a couple of them back there. Because of the bed bug problem, everything is in plastic bags. So when that's why I built, this was all I built with paper mache, but the first thing that I did was a bookshelf. This was at the Fort Tottenham house. This is why the landlord got pissed off, because I was doing something, and pull up her crap. But because then I have to pull out from, okay, I know I got this book that's, I want to get this, that, and go through all of my boxes. Okay, where is it, and then put it back in and have a bookshelf. Now I'm back to the same thing, because they're all in bags and boxes. And so, I mean, a lot of times I'm like, well, I know it's in there, and I'll have it marked, but if I want to quote it, I got to pull out the book. So then there is, okay, this is, I was talking about the De Juan family in Spain. So this is Maria Dolores Petina. De Juan. Stuckey is her married name. So she lives out in Baltimore. She, I knew her in Madrid. She worked with my ex-husband. He worked for Indo-Suez in 91, just for 1 year. Long story, I won't get into that. We left Paris, and he was with BBV in Paris. Then he was in Indo-Suez in Madrid, and then after that he went back to BBV. We'll get into that story. So she worked at Indo-Suez when he was there, and we became friends, and we'd come over for dinner, and so we became friends with her. Then the funny thing was, then we moved. Then after Madrid, the year in Madrid, we went to Brussels. We were in Brussels for 4 years. She moved to Brussels. Now my ex was with BBV, and she's Indo-Suez still. And so, just total coincidence. So she moves to Brussels. Then we moved to Paris, and she moves to Paris. And when we moved to Bogota, it was like, oh, Bettina, I guess you'll be coming to Bogota now. And which she didn't. And so she stayed in Paris, and we were in Bogota the whole time. Then we were in Madrid. She met an American, I mean, older than her. And they got married in Paris, and they also had a ceremony here in Washington at the National Cathedral. He was, well, this is also his first marriage ended in a divorce. His wife was Indian, and there was accusations for sexual abuse, and I mean, once again, it didn't fit to me. And this guy, he's wonderful because Bettina, she has a son. I've seen him, as I say, you don't want to judge until you get all of the facts. But I've seen, because what she did was she destroyed him. destroyed his career, destroyed him financially, and this is what you're seeing. So when there is this objective to destroy the other person within a divorce, I have to take any accusations of domestic abuse with a grain of salt and look at the big picture. In fact, Governor Cuomo's, Kerry Kennedy, there was something, it was some story about her locking herself up in the bathroom, and you know, that was a sign of domestic abuse, that she had been afraid. Let's just say I know the other flip side of the coin of women locking themselves in their bathrooms, throwing temper tantrums, and with their different agendas. I won't get into all of that. So just because a woman is logging herself into the bathroom, it could be a tizzy fit, or she could be afraid, but there are the two possibilities. All I say is this stuff has to be examined under evidence. It needs to be examined by the appropriate people without all sorts of media. I mean, of course, with normal people, you don't get the media, but then they don't get the media, so then they get the gossiping, you know, the little bitches in the neighborhood who will sign anything, and it's going to cost them. It's going to cost them. So all that needs to be cleaned up. I mean, I'm sorry, the government does not exist to profit from any games and contribute and participate in any games litigants might be playing. They're there to oversee, to see that that does not happen. and divorces and, you know, marriage annulment, all of that used to be under the clergy. Well, of course, separation of church and state, it moved it into the civil courts. Yeah, well, they fucked that, excuse me, really fucked it up. Really, really fucked it up. I think you're worse than the clergy courts. So, you know, there were those accusations and everything. Nice guy, although he's going to have problems as well. So, Bettina comes to the United States. Well, I'm fighting to uphold democracy in her country as much as my own. While she is here, I think I've seen recently, she's like top salesperson. She got into real estate in Baltimore. And I even told her when I came, I said, because she'd come here maybe 2 years or so before I had to come back to the United States. And I even told her, I said, well, Bettina, if if you're interested in real estate, I mean, I was at the IMF. I said, oh my God, so many of them come in. Okay, a lot of it is rental. Some of it is sales, plus all the people that I know in Middleburg. I mean, Dwight Shar, I mean, okay, is not real estate. And Doug, of course, like everybody else, I called him when I got back. I called him after the shutdown because it was about my sister in Telluride and doing, he's a botanist, he has a farm, doing stuff with that. But of course, he never calls me back. I don't know, maybe he thinks I'm looking for a handout. I don't know what his deal is, but whatever. I don't waste my time second guess. I'm like, whatever, you guys. I know you're not going to help me with what I actually want help on. So, I came back here to work and to do what I had to do and not to socialize. And I'll get to get back in with your games. So she told me, so she's like, no, rentals, you don't get it, you don't make enough money, because you get a lot more money from a sale. But of course, what I tried to explain to her, also it's a lot more work to sell a house sometimes than to rent it. I mean, sometimes, if it's not my ex-husband. Oh Lord, every time we had to look for a new place. I was never difficult. I knew exactly what I wanted. In fact, when we bought the house, the real estate agent, he was like, I've never worked with a woman like that. Okay, next. Okay. That's the one. See if we can negotiate it with that one. I'm like, buddy, I've been doing this with rental stuff for a long time. I know exactly what I want, and I'm not here to check out the houses. I know exactly what I want. In fact, I told one real estate agent, I said, I told you what I want once with her. I said, I told you what I wanted. Not one thing was anything near what I wanted. She said, no, my job is to show you the best that I've got. I'm like, no, your job is to show me what I want, because if you don't have anything that I want, why are you going to waste your time and mine showing me things that as I say, it was one place that she showed me was okay, but the rest of it, I was like, what's this? Say it that way to her, but when you have looked for new places to live, I've moved an average of once every 2 years for the past 40 years. When you move that often, you don't waste time with, let's check it out. Let's check it. Unless you're my ex-husband. So, yeah, no. She's out in Baltimore. She's going to get into real estate. She's going to make, that way. That's fine. So that was the first time that I heard, she told me that she was working on reverse mortgages. So what's that? Never even heard of it. Of course, it's a new product. When she explained to me, I said, you've got to be kidding me. And then I see Magnum PI, what's his name? Forget the actor's name, Magnum PI. He's doing all the commercials for that stuff. I mean, the thing is, reverse mortgages, what you're doing is, these are people who have already paid off, have equity in their home. Maybe they don't have 100% equity, but they have equity in their homes, and is usually at the end of their lives. So they can get a loan, get another mortgage, get a mortgage, so they can have money to go to the shopping mall or go on vacations, spend. Yeah, okay, so you spend it. So where's the money going to come to pay back that mortgage? Because you're not going to be around forever. I want my house, not so I can go and get another loan so I can go and spend some more money. I want my house to leave for my children. I don't, my objective in life is not to spend everything that I make so my children are on their own. Chacun pour soi. So I got a lot of problems with reverse mortgages, and it is just another tool to inflate the bubble. So I'm like, excuse me, while you're, fat and happy and eating high on the hog, cashing in, and I won't even go speculate on, let's just say she likes my husband a lot more than she does me. She always had a crush on my husband. So I can just imagine some of the we'll find out. But anyway, what legitimately angers me is here she is out there in Baltimore living the good life, making money. She's a top producer, a top sales producer, or whatever, in Baltimore. I mean, I don't know top sales producer of what, if like the real estate or her office or whatever. But yeah, she's making lots and lots and lots of money. But she knows what's going on in Spain. And there's some things I don't want to talk about and put on public that's going on there. But she knows. Now, she's from the Dewan family, and has, her brothers and her family, lawyers, and I mean, and I'm wealthy. I mean, believe me, a lot of the families, they don't have the wealth. But this is where the networking, yet another person that I know in my network who is too busy out there partying and cashing in to care about what's going on in her country. And another, she's here in my country. I could be doing that job. Real estate. Oh, I love real estate. I could be a real estate agent, no problem. But I didn't come here for that. And also, global expats will make a hell of a lot of money. I mean, if she was smart, she would have been like, oh gosh, yeah, let me help you get this together. Sure. We know, investors between, I mean, she worked in the banking system. Also, very jealous of me. I mean, I'm sure she is enjoying everything that I've gone through in the past 15 years as much as my sisters. And many other people that I know. So the other is a friend of hers, Julie Sammy. Now, Julie Sammy, this was when I went through the eviction, 2010, at the 5th and Q house with Aurora Moa, and had to leave, had to leave. So this is a friend of hers who is Indian but French, who had come to the United States. She was at University of Maryland doing a doctorate on elephants. I don't know, there's Asian elephants and there's African elephants. I forget, I think she was doing African because the Asians are very popular, or vice versa, I forget. But I mean, you talk about a dysfunctional person, and what is this? It was an eye-opening experience into the world of the career PhD, how will I say, researchers. These were in one was penguins, her thing was elephants, another, yeah, as I say, penguins, and I mean, it wasn't just animals, but it was all of these, you know, they're like assistant professors at universities, and then they have their grants. But I mean, that's how they live. It's kind of a hand-to-mouth existence, but they're always, they need the grant money. They need the grant money. They need the grant money, and basically the grant money is how they survive and how they live. But none of them are, you know, it's all, I'm doing my part for the world. I'm doing my part for the world. I'm doing my part for the world. But all they're doing is really, how do I cash in? How do I cash in? How do I cash in for me? Now, I'm sure some of them are producing some, you know, legitimate research and some, you know, things that need to be examined, but it's not a cost-effective way that it's being done. And particularly the people who get in there, I mean, you talk about your narcissists, the professional PhDs, and all of those type of people are probably some of the most arrogant, you know, a lot of them idiots. I mean, this woman, she had been a vet, but she wasn't very good at a vet. So she decided that she's going to get a PhD and study elephants. Well, she had some health problems, but you know, had an operation. So it was this excuse that she wasn't finishing her PhD because of all of her health problems. I'm pretty sure by the time I left, I was there a year and a half, 2 years. I'm almost positive that she suffers from Munchausen, and which people who make themselves sick so they can get lots of attention and sympathy. You have Munchausen by proxy, and the typical that you hear about is the mother who has the child in the hospital and she's the one making the child sick. That's the typical example that's given, but it's, you know, that's just one. It's a long, big spectrum of things. My mother had Munchausen by proxy. My brother, I believe, suffers from it. I mean, most narcissists suffer from it in some form or another, because it makes them feel good to be doing charity work. That's why when you get it into the macro, it becomes this paradigm that we see here of exploit, and then charity, to see what a good person I am and how caring I am. Anybody who has the $100 bill in the wad at the church on Sunday to show how caring they are, in whatever scenario form that might take, don't believe it. The more generous and grandiose that they are, the probably bigger son of a bitch they are, or bitch. So she was, you know, I'm almost positive her health problems were self-induced. I mean, through medicine, and because she was a vet as well, so she would have known exactly what she needed to be taking and to do. And I mean, you talk about a prima donna princess. And she made a big mistake, because when she rented the room for me, it was the largest room for $650. I already told this. When I get out there, see, once they catch the fish, reel it in, time to pay. And I mean, I had so much, as much problems as I had trying to find a job. I'm facing the same discrimination in housing. Nobody wants to rent to me. I'm an old lady. Nobody wants an old lady. I should just, sati, go out and widow burning, do everybody a favor and light myself on fire and kill myself. And then I no longer need to be fed or clothed or housed. That's a sati game. That's what the feminists have produced for homemakers who opt out of the game, and therefore their only path in life either is to stay married for whatever that costs them, or go out on the streets and beg or prostitute themselves, or find themselves another meal ticket. They think, okay, there are two options here. Either you get on the fast track of professional career and you have it all, and you abandon your children, or you get married and you raise a family and you dedicate yourself to your family and you stay there until you die. Otherwise, you're out on the street. That's the same stuff as before. Exact same. This was my whole point with the courts in Spain. I even, when I was there, I was like, oh, wow. The most progressive legal code system in the world. Yet women here have no more rights than in India, where my friend Benita Gupta from Cobham, she told me back in the 80s, oh yeah, in India, they could say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. Out on the streets with nothing except your jewelry. I was like, thank God I had a lot of jewelry in Spain when they pulled the crap on me, because I made jewelry, so I had all like stock of gold. I mean, a lot of it was gold dust. I mean, not a lot of it, but I had my gold dust as well, because you don't throw that away. But you got to clean it and clean it and clean it and then melt it down. But I mean, all the scrap gold that I had, and even some of my jewelry, it was mainly the gold. Okay, how much of this gold weigh? The stones were not valuable, but, or sometimes I'd cut out the stone and sell the gold. But that's how I would manage to survive. One of the guys at the gym, he was laughing at me and he said, oh my God, you sound like the Gitanas. I gotta go downtown to Madrid to sell my gold. Oh, I wasn't laughing too much of those days, but I did have to laugh sometimes, otherwise I really would have lost it. So, once an immigrant, so, she's getting her grants. Now, another issue with her was, so she's Indian, but also French. Her parents had bought her that house. Her parents also had given money to her brother to buy a house. The older sister, we'll get to the older sister. And then her parents had a house in India and an apartment in Paris. And they had both been civil servants for the French government. So see, this is another thing. She was younger than me, but her mother was definitely older than me, an Indian woman who was a professional civil servant in the French system. So see, this whole thing about women being kept out of the workforce, and all of a sudden in the 60s, Betty Friedan liberated everybody, and all of a sudden women who were kept out of the workforce could never work. total bullshit, total propaganda. Yes, effectively there was a restriction. You know, either you really kind of for a good reason, either you chose a professional career in the office and you didn't get married, you didn't have a family, you know, you didn't have children, or you chose to get married and have children. Now, it doesn't have to be one or the other, but the system that the feminists have installed unilaterally because they want it and they decided, and all the other women in the world can go and screw themselves, it's not any good either. Also with this landlord in Greenbelt, I had to pay in cash. So I know she's looking at tax issues, tax fraud. So where did her parents get all of this money? Because they're not from a wealthy Indian family by any means. Also, they wouldn't have been civil servants in the French system if they had been. So where did all this wealth come from? And I mean, you talk about a dysfunctional family, top to bottom. So then there's the sister who is actually Patina's friend. This is the younger sister of Patina's friend. I forget her sister's name. She's in Paris, but then also her sister was, you know, mentor or on the board or something of, you know, a women's business clinic assistant, government, some sort of government agency in Paris. She's a lawyer in Paris that helped women who are trying to develop businesses. So I said, oh, well, Julie, can I send this plan over to your sister? Because I'd be more than happy to start Global Expats in France, in Paris, and we can go through that and, you know, get funding, because what I need is capital venture funding. The Yelp guy, he catches a cold and he gets $30 million. Bezos, he wasn't sure if his business would work. He even said 90%, it probably won't, yet he still got his family to invest. They got the money. 4 squares, 10 years. Still hadn't figured out a business model or plan or anything. Yet they had the website up. 10 years, $100 million. They got it without having any idea of what they're doing. They're just building a platform. This equality thing for women is not working out so good. Yes, I went through the proper channels instead of contacts because all of my contacts have canceled me. But that's why I know that the proper channels are bullshit. And it's all through the contacts. And since my contacts, and I got a lot, but no, I'm canceled. I should just go and you know, burn myself, like they do in India. So her sister, oh my Lord, but she told me about her sister. So her sister, I'm sorry, now I got the name of another women's, you know, center, because there's one here in DC that I met with, and I'm like a waste of money. You guys are just window dressing to make it look like you're helping these ladies. Oh, bullshit. Most of the people in there don't know anything about building a business or running a business. Yet they're advising people on how to start a business and how to run a business. So she's a lawyer. Her husband is a lawyer. Extremely dysfunctional family. He's very abusive. The eldest child, the son, destroyed. Mother for welfare. I don't know. Julie was like, well, I could be an actor. He's gorgeous, apparently. It just goes from generation to generation to generation. And I mean, her parents, her mom, a real piece of work. So these are, you know, two foreigners on foreign soil, cashing it in, cashing it in, cashing it in, living the good life, while I'm sitting here fighting City Hall all by my little lonesome. You're starting to understand and see a pattern of, yeah, there is a problem. You know, like Trump, they're trying to steal our jobs. I got all sorts of examples of that. I mean, yeah, Bettina, I wasn't in competition, but I could do that job. I wouldn't do that job. I wouldn't do it like she does it, but I could do it. Okay, so we're, oh gosh, I'm sorry, we're really probably over 2 hours tonight. Problem is, you know, you get me on this one, and then you get me on that one, and then you get me on that. That's why I hoping to pull out the cards and we stick to one person and another, and then try and keep it within a space where somebody besides me can understand. So we get to the Spanish royals, and I'm getting a dry throat, so I'm going to finish up. I need to get something, another drink. So we've got the Pozuelo family, which I said. Now, the Pozuelo family, these are two sisters that I know of. I mean, out of that family. One, oh shoot, what's the name of that platform? Because I wrote blogs for them for a while. It's another one of these, you know, small time Huffington Post type of thing. But it based in Madrid in English. And I did write some blogs for them for a while, hoping, you know, okay, now can you look at what I'm really trying to produce here? And that's getting to get the funding. I mean, yeah, I want partners. Jeffrey Hilton contacted me in 2015. I'm sure that was James Ryan who sent it to me. And he said, what do you need? A CEO or a techie guru? I said, either or both. And he was like, well, what do you need us for? See, you know, the marketing function, it's sales. Marketing 101, commercial 101, econ 101, marketing 101. I understand it better than any other big wig experts. Marketing 101, the teacher, what is sale? What is marketing? All sorts of responses. He said, no, very simple. And I would say it's probably, you know, one of the few things I remember about the class, but it was the crux of the class. And he was right. He said, marketing is about identifying your market, finding out what their needs are, and then fulfilling those needs. Then you don't have to cram the sales down their throat because you're actually producing something that they want and need. What? Need. Because you can produce a whole bunch of super, you know, imaginary wants that don't really exist. You just fill their head. Oh Lord, when the lady here told me that she had a smartphone because that's what she was supposed to do. Who told you we were supposed to do it? I mean, an adult, no, I got a smartphone because that's what I'm supposed to do. Get a life. So so these two de Pozuelo sisters pull on the same crap as all of these socialite women. I mean, I could come out, you know. So they're producing, you know, really, really expensive baby clothes, designer baby clothes, and they have that line, and exclusive delivery and you know, all of this for an exclusive, wealthy, luxury markets. And believe me, I'm like, you guys are all over the place. I don't think enough rich people are producing babies for all of this stuff. And I'm sorry, I would never pay that much for a baby outfit that, excuse me, when they're 1 month old, 2 months old, 3 months old, until they get to 6, sometimes it'll get worn once before they grow out of it. Okay, depends on how many you have. But they grow so fat, for particularly the first 3 months, you know. That's why you have newborn, 3 months, 6 months, 9, 12 months. Then you get into the years. They don't grow quite so fast as they get a little bit older. So that kind of money, no, yeah. I'm like, no, let me go to Target, you know, well, Gap. I mean, we didn't have Gap in Europe. I would, at that time, I would come. But I mean, the best quality. I didn't mind paying a bit more for the price, yeah, because, oh, I had clothes that my kids, you know, it went through one and then the other, and then I think it was still in great shape, and I gave it away to somebody. It looked almost new. So we're not on the same page about, you know, the children's fashion designs and clothing and the prices. What's an appropriate price for children's clothes? I mean, okay, for me, I'm willing to spend a little bit more because I can wear the same thing. Well, I mean, I'll take my children and have me yo-yoing with my weight all over the place, but I can say wear the same thing for 40 years. I mean, I had some expensive clothes, I didn't wear them all the time, but I mean, 20, 30 years and they were still in impeccable state. You know, I don't like to go shop. If I go shopping, it's because I need something and I'm done. And Lord, don't send me shopping with any lady. No, I'm bad. So then there's the Cabiedes family. Now, the Cabiedes associated, well, it's the, I forget what it's called, but it's the Associated Press, the version of the Associated Press in Spain. So they, I mean, I can't say they totally control, but they control a lot of the press in Spain, and also investment money, capital ventures. There's 3 brothers, I believe. Oh, and I, you know, I've contacted them. I mean, you know, I've got them on LinkedIn. Throughout the years on you know, the press issues. Plus, I would be more than happy. I mean, just like I went through all of the CVs in the United States and possible partners, I did that in Spain. I spoke with several guys. Yeah, great idea, great idea. When you get the money. So, you know, I was like, excuse me, Jeffrey Hilton. You Hilton family, you're no different than the Trumps. And this is one of the problems. You have no clue as to what marketing is. Nobody. Another example I use is Susan Feeney in Madrid, big wig, Bank of America. once again, sales. Oh, I won't get started on her because she's not on here. So otherwise I get off. So that's the de Cabieres family, de Alcalá family. My ex-husband is of the Alcalá family. That was on his mother's side. That was his paternal grandfather. I believe it was his paternal grandfather. It might have been his father, which would have been the great-grandfather of my ex-husband. But I do believe it was the grandfather. Was from, was it, an illegitimate child from the De Alcalá family and abandoned, on a doorstep. And the only thing that was with him was a rattle or something that identified him as from the De Alcalá family. Now it was abandoned. I don't know, probably more of an arrangement of here, give it to a poor family and we'll give them some money to take care of this child. Who knows? I think that's more likely than these poor campesinos just taking in children off the streets out of the goodness of their hearts. But extremely poor family, illiterate. But see, this is the grandmother. Oh, I loved her. She was the greatest lady, one of the greatest ladies I've ever known. But semi-illiterate. It has nothing to do with. It has to do with how you treat people and how you act. But she would always say, "Una leche para ti." Is there an expression? Una leche para ti. Give me the money. You can take the name. So it's like, well, and that grandfather was the communist in the Spanish Civil War. See, you guys, how men with zipper problems can produce some issues for society that can go several generations. I mean, my ex-husband is no rocket science. Well, his mother. When I heard the stories, I was like, okay, I don't have to look any farther. See, most of the time, now, yes, fathers can have a hand in making violent sons, but the moms, like with when I was in college, a friend of mine, Jewish friend of mine, he said, no Jew, they won't even want to date you because they could never take you home to mom. I'm looking for a husband. They're like, yeah, but they could never take you home to mom. A guy like you, never take you home to mom. I said, that's racist. Well, it's not racist, but it is discriminatory. It's, what do you call it when it's religious based? And then the Dewan family, I already did there. But see, ruling elite in Spain, here, well, in Colombia as well, I won't go there, France, and all of them are rags to riches stories, either from their lives, or like Anne Sinclair, this gets to her grandfather, I guess it was. He had been an art dealer for Picasso. That's where he made his fortune. Well, that gets into the libertine stuff. Go there. But I will talk about one person in France, and I actually might have said in another that she was. I guess I was tired. It was the family where I was an au pair when I left Washington, gave up my very lucrative career and making good money You know, a year and a half after I'm out of, or 2 years after I'm out of college. But I was like, no, it's not just about money, and packed my bags and I was an au pair. Her sister, I was a nanny. I was an au pair. There's a bit, I mean, I went also, I'm going to learn French. And that's what I mean. I spoke only French. I didn't speak a lot to begin with. Can understand that might have been a little difficult, but and the first family I was with was a disaster, but the second family, yeah, I haven't with everything going on, you know, and we're moving. This is one of the reasons why I was like, when internet came, I was like, oh great, well, because I'm constantly moving, you know, getting to the post office, not my forte. And so I was like, oh, this is great. Well, then my life exploded and it changed course. But Agnes, I mean, she's the only one that I know. Well, that you know, she was working at Dannon, and she spoke with a woman who worked with the expats with the HR and Dannon about the project, and you're like, well, it's good. I mean, it didn't go anywhere, but at least, you know, she made an effort, and she had a contact. Oh, let me see if I can help you. I mean, that was a good reason why I left the States. And I mean, that was my family. Her daughter is in, oh gosh, her daughter just, I saw on LinkedIn, this is my, you know, my baby, because I took care of her. I mean, I'll say only for a year, but she's my little baby. And she's at the European Central Bank. So Christine Lagarde's over there now. So we'll see what goes on. I mean, her father, this is another one of those casualties of this system and the way he left his family. Might come up in the cards, that story, but this is another, you know, this has got it. There are casualties. Yeah, the CEOs are making themselves rich. You know, the rich are getting richer, but below, and it's not just the people at the bottom of the you know, food chain. It's all the way up to the top, and even the ones that are cashing in and getting rich, their kids are screwed up, and they have screwed up kids. It's not working for anybody, except for a bunch of zipper problem idiots and women who only want to go shopping and spend 2 hours on putting on her makeup. I promise you, when that girl, I mean, James told me one time, he said, my Lord, I've never seen a woman who can, because, you know, I'd be like, well, wait a second, because I'm coming from the gym or riding or whatever. I'm like, we got a dinner party and we got to be out of here. Okay, give me 15 minutes and I'll be up and I'll be done. And he was like, I've never seen a woman who could. I was like, yeah, well, I got to finish putting on my makeup when you stop. But still, I, you know, that is not something, I mean, you have to make yourself look nice and presentable and do your makeup and you know, but these ladies who even I would say with the men, what do they do in there? And I actually go into the ladies' bathroom. But even so, I'm like, okay, guys. First, they sit there gossiping in front of the mirror for like 5 minutes. Then they finally pull out their lipstick and start putting on their lipstick. Usually by that time I'm out of there, so the rest of the time I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, the only reason that I had girlfriends was because I went to a girls' boarding school and was a stay-at-home mom. Otherwise, I've always pretty much preferred company of men. See, that's why this whole thing, women have to try twice as hard. I'm like, that's because you feminists who are coming in don't have the intelligence to be doing what you're doing. So you say all women have to try twice as hard because you do. I've never had men, well, a couple of them, but they were jackasses to everybody. So, you know, it wasn't just to me, it was to everybody. It's not sexist, it's just they're jackasses. But any man with a brain and a professional and interested in whatever the project was, you know, no, if I start wiggling my ass in front of them, things might change. Oh, yeah. Never been my style, but anyway, we really need to have a sex education, serious sex education. When the Bill Clinton things go, oh, did I get raked over the coals by the Europeans on that one? And I was like, oh, see, the Americans are so bad. We need to, how much was the Star Report? How many millions? We need to spend that much money to figure out what constitutes sex between a man and a woman. Oh gosh, sorry, I'm getting giddy. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's, oh, I didn't do these cards. Let me just do one. No, really. I mean, truly. I can't tell you how many times living abroad that I'm like, yeah, but yeah, they've gone crazy. I got no other excuse. Okay. So let's see the first pile. Now I forgot what I had over here. What was it? Last one. Okay, we had Krugman there, the Spanish Royals, and Patina. So Krugman. One side will make you grow taller, the other side will make you grow shorter. I guess that goes pretty well with the economy. So for Bettina and Judy Sammy, from the Queen, an invitation for the Duchess to play croquet. Two little queens that can go and play croquet together when the shit show starts, because both of them are not going to be sitting pretty. Now for the Spanish Royals. Oh, I didn't get into the Spanish Royals. Queen Sofia and Leticia, the daughter-in-law. Okay, Queen Sofia, she had a domestic violence NGO. Going to be looking at problems with fraud. But Leticia, she didn't bother. She's not into that. No, and if one will note, what she concentrated on, or the feminist, is that now under the Spanish Constitution, the firstborn, even if it's a girl, becomes the king or queen. So see, Leticia, and she's a journalist. So my case against Spain is gonna get super convoluted, and particularly put Leticia, Queen Leticia, Reina Leticia, in serious problems. I'm not even gonna speculate about the ramifications here, because I mean, we're talking application type of stuff. They have the royal family, read the Constitution, the Spanish Constitution, and you know, any of the royal family, their job is not to sit around and party and fight with your mother-in-law. And create scenes in public when the royal family in Spain, oh, we'll get in el Rey Carlos. Isn't it Juan Carlos? Yeah, the former king, Juan Carlos. He shot his brother when he was 18 years old, and his brother was 14 years old. May not have been first-degree murder, but it was certainly manslaughter. So that one gets the king of hearts. Consider my dear child. Consider my dear. She is only a child. What is Baltasar Garzón going to start, or when is Baltasar Garzón going to start looking for reparations for the new victims of human rights violations, and not just the ones under Franco, because nothing has changed. So for me, and hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Well, I don't know if I've slain anything yet. And depends on what's your arm. Come to my arms. What you got in your arms, buddy? But so that's it for tonight. Have a nice evening, and don't forget to wear your masks, please. Okay, have a good evening. Good night.